Okay, and we are on. Hi everyone, welcome to another masterclass. Our masterclass number 23, and today we, as always, have a very special guest. And this one is his first time doing this masterclass. His name is João Grow. He is one of our finest front end developers, and today he's going to talk about some CSS tricks with us. This is going to be the masterclass. And talking about this masterclass, João has also wrote an article about this. You can check it on the description of the video. It is the full guide for this presentation, and you can consult it whenever you want to see it and to have like the guide to get this presentation from the beginning to the end. And I think that's it. Without further ado, hi João, how are you?
Hi, João as well. We have two Joãos here today. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for the nicest introduction.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like you said, I am a front-end developer. This is my time here, my first time here with us, and I mean it's amazing to be here. Um, I have around 6 years of experience in this field, and today, well, I'm hoping to share some of my knowledge here with you. So let's hope you enjoy it, and I guess let's start our presentation then.
let's start it.
Okay, let's go. So we're going to talk about some of the CSS tricks that not only me, but also a lot of front-end developers, CSS coders like to use. I think these are, at least a few of them are some of the most used in terms of code. Some are more recent, some are more oldie, but they all of them share something which is some nicest tricks and tips to know when you are coding CSS. Today we're going to dive into 5 of them, some of my favorites, and I think they are very interesting if you never heard about them before. Um, so let's see how this goes. Okay, let's dive into the first one. And CSS tip and trick number one, line clamp. And yes, this is more of a trick. Line clamp. It's basically used to to create an ellipsis on a text. Obviously, you probably already know about text ellipses. The key difference here is, and let me allow to show you, um, with line clamp, you can do it on multiple lines. That is the biggest difference against the traditional text ellipsis. Here, as you can see, we are ellipsing this text on the fifth line, and I'm going to show you some code here. Um, Here, as you can see, these are basically the four properties that you need to set up in order for the line clamp to work. So you need the WebKit line clamp, the most important one maybe, where you can define exactly the number of lines that you want to show. Here we can see, now with 4 lines, 3 lines, and it's working just fine. We can have more because we have a lot of text here, and this is just how well this works. You need to set up the display as a WebKit box. Pay attention to the prefix, the overflow hidden, and the WebKit box orient to vertical mode. Because yes, you can also use it in horizontal mode. We'll not dive into that today, but yes, it is also possible. Um, this feature right now is available in most of the browsers, so you shouldn't have any issue. But as usual with CSS, we always have to work with multiple browsers. Some of them work in a different way. So make sure to check it first for the compatibility mode for all the CSS that we'll talk about here today. You can also see more of that on the blog and the article that we wrote. So one of the things here about line clamp is it doesn't work so well with height. Like if you define a fixed height, it's not going to work the way it was supposed to. As you can see now, it's showing more text than you should. Um, so make sure that whenever you are using this property, you always set flow, the height flow for an automatic and not a defined height. This can bring some constraints if you are building a more complex design, which requires for this text for some reason, to be have a fixed height. So that can be a constraint. Hopefully in the future, and because this works mostly as a trick, hopefully in the future, CSS, which has been evolving, can come up with a true and proper ellipsis way. But for now, this can be very, very helpful. I know I use this a lot, so I hope you can also understand and start using this feature in the future. I'm sure it will bring you a lot of benefits. And well, this is it. This is line clamp. This is our first CSS tip. I guess we are now ready to move to the next one. Yeah, let's see what we got here. And it's CSS has, and this I've been waiting for this property forever. This has been announced around last year, somewhere in the beginning of the last year. It was available for a while as a preview fixture in Chrome. It's still not supported on Firefox. It's only officially supported by Chrome since last summer, around fall or something, and it's amazing. CSS has is basically a selector. It uses a pseudo element, and it allows you to check, just like a query, to check if a certain element, a certain semantic HTML element, or a class is part of that element where you are checking for. So I think the best way to explain this is really just to see some of the code, see how it works. So let's try to get in here into our browser and check the page for the CSS has. And okay, here we go. As you can see right now, let me just refresh this page. Okay, just to make sure all the code is clean. And here we go. As you can see here, we have basically two containers. They have the same class. It's my container. Inside of them, they also have another class for the text. It's called my class. Has the same color. And over here, what we can see, the only difference between them is this one has a link, also known as an A element, and this one does not have a link. It's simple text. So what if we want to change, have some way to differentiate this div right here, this container, from this one on the right? So we know that there's a difference, a key difference between them. One has a link, the other one doesn't, but we don't want to style the link. We want to style the container based only on the difference between them. So in the past, you probably need to use, I'm guessing, JavaScript probably. Nowadays, we can just use this. So let's use our selector. It's has, and now let's check if it has a link inside of this container. Let's see if this works. So it's background color. Let's just choose any one of them, and there we go. The container on the left, because it has a link inside of it, we can change its backgrounds using only that very, very simple query. Now, as I said, you can also look for anything that you want in here. So if it has a specific class, you can also use the class. Let's see, in this case, we have the class my class. So instead of checking for an element, we're going to write our class here. We need the dot because it's a class. So let's check for my class. And as you can see, both backgrounds has just changed because both of these containers have this class. If this class was unique, only the containers that have that class inside of them would have been selected. Yes, quite obvious. Now, this is actually very powerful. I recommend you to check more about the selector has. You can also use it for negation. You can use it in a lot of complex ways. Let's see, for instance, with negation, we could use something like this. Not our parameters will be the has, and inside of it a link. And now, as you can see, it shows the one that it doesn't have a link inside of it. Um, so there's a lot more ways that you can use this selector in a lot of complex ways that, it's not the point of this presentation here today, but I really advise you to check some of the documentation. This is very, very powerful. There are a lot of articles out there, so just Google it, and I'm sure you're going to have some surprises in the ways that you can use the CSS has selector. It's a very, very powerful feature, and I'm very thankful for this one. I think it's one of those features that are going to change the way that we write CSS in the future. And yeah, that was our CSS tip number 2. João, how you like it so far?
So far, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Okay, good
But
to know.
let's go to the
Let's
number
go.
three, I guess.
Yeah, let's go for the number 3 then. And what we have in number 3 is variables. Yes, CSS variables. Finally, CSS now also allows us to store variables. So if you are already, uh, acquainted to work with our programming languages, more like JavaScript or any other programming language, you know that you can store data in variables, and now CSS has that feature as well. So let's see how we can use them. Uh, let's go here to my test screen, and as you can see, we have two texts here. Apparently they have different colors. Let's see what's going on here. So this is my container, the first one. It's using a variable. As you can see, this is how we use a variable, and this variable is called my color. Let's see where this leads us to, and here we go. So this is where we store this variable. In this case, we store on the root level. So that will be your main style sheet usually. You can define it in the root, but you can pretty much define variables wherever you want. So all you need to do is, as you can see, use two hyphens before the name, and then set the property that you want. I have some examples here. We have some colors, as you can see. We also have a page size, which is using a calculation inside of it, and another variable store inside. So this is a little bit more tricky, as you can see. It is just one example. And another one for the page padding that is actually using two values. So this is just some of the values that you can store, and as you can see, also calculations that you can store inside the variables. Now, the way you use them, as you already see, it's very simple. Whenever you want to use this color, you just call the variable, and inside of it, the name of the variables that you want to use. So you can also use a background color. Let's say we choose a var, and we insert the parameters inside of it, which is in this case, I think it's called my background. Sometimes Chrome helps you to write the names. For some reason, this is not the case, but as you can see, now we are using my background as a background color, which apparently is also the same that was behind. So there's not really much of a change. Let's go to the second container. We have a different color. Let's see why. Right here, we can see that we are also using the variable my color, but on the same instance, we are also changing the variable. In this case, the value of the variable. If we remove this right here, as you can see, it's going to use the exact same color. It's the same variable that it was using here before. And if we go there, we can see it's on the root level. So the idea here is just to show you that you can change this value across your style sheet inside any class, for instance, and it will use the CSS precedence. So this is a very, very nice feature to have. it allows you to do some things like this. Let's say you want, at some point, the design has decided to change this color to another one, and it's going to be, let's say, this tone right here, and it's going to change everywhere that you are using. So this allows us not only to have consistency, but also in terms of maintenance, it's going to be much, much easier to change everything in the process, only having to change in a single place instead of having to change like everywhere. So much easier, as you can see.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah, and also if you are trying to develop a dark theme, oh, this is definitely the way to go. Having variables is gonna make everything much nicer because you can change this background color to a dark background, as you can see right here, and you're going to change the font colors to a lighter font. Sorry, it's going to be something like this, and there we go. Basically, this is how you would create a dark theme by simply creating a new root for the dark. There would change these variables to pretty much the inverse colors that you have here before. So this is also something that probably, if you're not using yet, you should definitely start using on your projects. It's going to make everything feel faster, smoother, easier maintenance, and much more consistent development. So that was it. That was our CSS tip number 3, variables. And I guess now, João, we are ready to
Go to
go to our
backdrop
number
filler. This one
4.
is more visual, no?
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
yeah,
This one is much more visual. In fact, our two last CSS tips are much more in the visual department. It's something that I really, really enjoy and to work with, because if you like these kind of things, I think it's very interesting to having these kind of features. So let's see how backdrop filter work, shall we? And here we go.
let's
No,
do it.
yeah, sorry. Here we go now. And backdrop filter. And let's see. In this case, we can see right here already a very nice looking video. I'm gonna try and make this page a little bit better. Here we go.
Okay.
That looks better now. You can see the whole video. And as you can see, we have some text on top of that video. It's a white text, and let's see how can we use backdrop filter to do some cool things here. So we're gonna have to select the layer, not the video itself, because we do not want to change the actual video. We want to change the layer where the text is. So to understand better backdrop filter, I'm going to show you first one that you may already know, which was the filter itself. As you can know, filter allows you to use several properties, such as blur, brightness, contrast, etc. And what you can see here, it's affecting the layer of the text. And even if we choose blur, it's one very easy one to see. You can see all the text is getting blurred. And this is not what we want. We want to make sure the video behind the text is blurred. So what we can do is use backdrop filter. Remember, this is also one of the properties that I was very, very looking forward to. It came up around maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was first available on iOS, and unfortunately also came on Chrome or Android phones as well. And it was a very nice feature to have. It allows you to do some very cool things. Here, as you can see now, with backdrop filter, we can change the blur on the background, but not on our text layer. It's still very noticeable, all the text, just the video behind is getting more pixelated. Pay attention, this is a very powerful feature, but it also is going to use up a lot of your resources. So make sure if you're going to use things, particularly like blur, that you don't abuse it too much. Um, But anyway, sometimes we need to use for some more, cool designs, and it's a very nice feature to have. One cool thing about backdrop filter, you can use multiple properties at the same time. In this case, I think I want to show how it's going to work with, let's see, hue rotate is one of my favorites, particularly for videos, because it allows you to change the colors of the video, as you can see. And also you can see the video stopping because this is using a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And if we want to make things worse, now we can add some blur inside of it. And there we go. So as you can see, you can make a lot of change using just this very simple property. The backdrop filter is also one of my very favorites. I was in love with it when it first came out, and I was always trying to design a lot of things with blur in particular. But it's not the best idea if you are aiming for performance. So pay attention to that.
Mm.
And well, I think this is what I have to say about backdrop filter. Let's remove it for now to see the difference. It's also using a lot of resources because it's a video, so it's going to use even more resources. It's not a very good idea. Uh, you
Yeah.
should use mostly with fixed backgrounds, static images, not so much motion pictures, as you can imagine. But I want to show you just how powerful this can be, and how you can use it even with videos. And yeah, this was our CSS tip number 4.
And
Uh,
we are going to the last one.
we are approaching the very, very last one. And if you already read the article, you know that you are going for blend
Well, no.
mode. Blend mode works, is very similar to, in my opinion, to backdrop filter, in the kind of examples that you want to use blend mode. But in this case, and as the name itself explains, blend mode is going to blend something. In this case, it's going to blend two elements, so obviously they need to be um, on top of each other, much like backdrop filter, so you can see the effect. So if you work with things before, like let's say Photoshop or any kind of image edition software, um, we have probably heard of something like blend, or the properties that we're going to see here today. Like in the first example, as you can see, and this is a property that you're going to use, it's called mix blend mode. All you have to do is use it inside the layer that you want to see the effect, you better have some background behind it, some color, so you can see the difference. um, as you can see, we have many options here: color, color burn, color dodge, darken, exclusion, highlight, etc. Many of these are exactly the same names as you would see in an image editor software. So if you are already familiar with that, it should be very easy for you. And let's see how they work. So as you can see, this is what allows us to do. It's going to blend both of them. You can see how the overlay sort of works. You can see how some of the image is going to be inside the letters themselves. So this is actually allows you to create a lot of cool things. You can use it in conjunction with another properties to create some very cool designs. Mostly for, if you want a spectacular landing page, this is probably where you want to use it mostly. One thing that should be considered is obviously it is going to take in consideration all the colors. So the color of your text, as you can see, if you start changing the color to another ones, you can see how the effect changes according to the background where it is. You can also see the difference very clearly between these two. They are using the same one. They are both different, and they are actually quite different from each other because it's going to depend on the color of the background that it's blending. That is one of the things that you gotta use, you gotta pay attention to. So if you're using this inside of an image, and if the text, depending on the responsive, for example, uh, is different, you can have different effects, and some of them may be what you want, some of them may not be what you want. So also pay attention to that, because this is very sensitive. It's pretty much blending the exact pixel of where of where that color is sitting on. So as you can imagine, a picture has a lot of different color pixels, so you're going to end up with very different things, like you can see between this the example and this one right here. And I think that's it. That is our blend modes, and it's also a very powerful feature. And if you didn't know about it, I think it's something that you should try it for yourself and see what you can achieve. It's something very cool to play around with. Just if you're into these kind of things, I think it's very cool, right?
Yeah, not only plan mode, but also the other tips that you gave us.
Okay,
So, yeah,
good to know. Um, So yeah, I like to play around with this. They are very cool features. Unfortunately, as you already may have seen, we don't really have all of the time in the world to really dive into each of these features, because each one of them we could talk about it for like 1 hour or
yeah.
so. But you
Every
probably
feature could be a good master class, like, but a really dense and long master class.
exactly, which could probably also be boring for some of them. But if you like them, our idea is just to give you some of the insight, and now you can explore more on yourself,
Yeah, and and
and
and
see how
also,
far you can go.
if the ones at home that are listening to us, if you have a doubt or something that you
Yes,
want us to answer you, you can always drop a comment on this video that João or anyone at Interactive will get to you right away, and explain to you or even give you some expert insights about
yeah.
any kind
We'll
of
try
feature.
to help you as much as possible from our insights. And yes, we're looking forward to hear from you, see what you like and what you like to hear more next. We really love to having that feedback. Also, this is what we hope for our first masterclass in some of the CSS tips. We are hoping to make some more in the future, either with me or someone else. So if you'd like to hear more about some features, just let us know. We'll
Yeah,
try to talk
and
about
stay tuned for more masterclasses to come. We are preparing more masterclasses for you to not only for CSS tips and tricks like this one, but for many other topics. And if you are not subscribed, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and get to know all that we are preparing for you, and also check the previous masterclasses in which we talk about the really large diversity of topics regarding OutSystems front end and uh, basically just user experience in general.
that's right.
And that's it for this month's masterclass. Thank you, João. That was a great
Thank you
presentation.
for having me.
I
Hope you
think that
enjoyed it.
I think that the ones at home really got to know a little bit more about CSS and so. And without further ado, give us a like if you haven't already, and see you next month. Thank you,
Thank
you,
you, everyone.
everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.